Have you ever had a connection with someone, lost them, and then found them again years later? I met him during my first year of college. We were in the same English class, a required course that seemed to bore everyone else to tears. He sat in the back row, usually wearing a band t-shirt and jeans. I noticed him because he always had a book open before class even started. Not a textbook, but an actual novel. I admired that. I wanted to talk to him, but I never knew what to say. All my usual conversation starters felt stupid. I usually asked people what they thought of the weather or some nonsense I heard on the news. He seemed like someone who would see right through that. I did not want to look like an idiot in front of someone I admired. I considered pretending to need help with the coursework. I did not want to appear incompetent either. I mostly just observed him from afar. That group project was my chance. I figured I could at least act like I belonged in the group. I wanted him to think I was smart and capable. I made sure to do all the assigned reading. I even went to the library to do extra research. I volunteered to take notes during our first meeting. I hoped I would not mess it up. I felt nervous about speaking in front of him. I was shy then, more so than I am now. It took me weeks to work up the courage to even say hello. One day, the professor assigned a group project. I found myself in a group with him and two other people I barely knew. I was internally panicking. He immediately took charge, but in a quiet, unassuming way. He didn't steamroll over anyone's ideas. He listened, offered suggestions, and somehow made the whole process less terrifying. I realized he was kind, thoughtful, and surprisingly funny. I appreciated his calm demeanor during a stressful time. It was a group project, and usually those devolve into chaos. Someone always tries to dominate, or no one does anything. He managed to get us all working together effectively. We divided the tasks based on our strengths. He took on the organizational role, which suited him. I found that I enjoyed working with him. I started to look forward to our meetings. I found myself thinking about him even when we weren't working on the project. We would grab coffee before heading to the library. We talked about things unrelated to school. I learned he liked hiking and playing guitar. I told him about my volunteer work at the animal shelter. Our conversations flowed easily, and I felt comfortable around him. We worked on the project at the library, spending hours researching and writing. I discovered that we shared a love for classic literature and obscure indie films. We debated plot points and character motivations with genuine enthusiasm. I felt seen and understood in a way I hadn't experienced before. Outside of the group project, we started spending more time together. We grabbed coffee after class, studied in the library, and went to see movies. He introduced me to bands I'd never heard of, and I showed him my favorite hiking trails. We talked about everything and nothing. I fell hard, and fast. I started rearranging my schedule to see him more. I dropped my Tuesday evening yoga class so we could have dinner. I even considered switching my major so I'd have more classes with him. My friends noticed, and they teased me relentlessly. They said I was acting like a lovesick teenager. I knew they were right, but I didn't care. I had never felt this way before, and I didn't want it to end. I spent hours thinking about what I would say to him and what I would wear. I wanted him to know how I felt, but I was also terrified of rejection. I think what really drew me to him was his authenticity. He didn't try to be someone he wasn't. He wore the same worn-out jeans and t-shirt every day. He wasn't afraid to admit when he didn't know something. He had a goofy laugh and a genuine smile. I appreciated that he listened when I talked. He actually seemed interested in what I had to say. He never interrupted or tried to change the subject. He made me feel like my thoughts and opinions mattered. He was different from anyone I'd ever dated. He wasn't trying to impress me. He was just himself, and that was more than enough. I valued his intelligence, his humor, and his genuine kindness. He made me feel comfortable and safe. We dated for 2 years. They were the best 2 years of my life so far. We were inseparable. We supported each other through everything. He was there for me when my grandfather died, and I was there for him when his parents went through a difficult time. We were a team. We talked about the future a lot. We made plans for trips we wanted to take. We discussed what kind of house we wanted to buy someday. We imagined our lives together. I truly believed we would be together forever. I never imagined anything would come between us. I thought our relationship was strong enough to withstand any challenge. We talked about our fears and insecurities. We always reassured each other. I felt safe and secure with him. He was my best friend and my lover. I could not picture my life without him in it. We laughed and cried together. We shared our dreams. I thought we were building something real and lasting. I realize now how naive I was. When he told me about the job offer, I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. I could not breathe. I felt dizzy. I did not know what to say. I was numb. I think I just stared at him. I did not want to believe it. I wanted him to tell me it was a joke. It was not a joke. It was real. He was moving. I felt like my world was collapsing around me. We sat in silence for a long time. I did not know what to do. I did not know how we would cope with this. The idea of not seeing him every day was unbearable. I could not imagine my life without him. Then, his dad got a job offer across the country. His whole family had to move. He was devastated. I was heartbroken. We talked about trying to make a long-distance relationship work, but we both knew it would be difficult. We were young, and neither of us had much money. The distance felt insurmountable. We decided to break up. It was the hardest decision we ever had to make. We cried, we hugged, and we promised to stay in touch. But we both knew that things would never be the same. We spent the next few days packing our things. The apartment felt empty without all of her stuff. I helped her load the car. We made small talk about the weather and traffic. It was awkward and painful. I did not want her to leave, but I knew it was the right thing to do. We said our final goodbyes in the parking lot. I watched her drive away. I felt numb for weeks after she left. I went through the motions of daily life. I went to work, ate meals, and slept, but I did not feel anything. My friends tried to cheer me up. They took me out to bars and invited me to parties. It did not help. I missed her terribly. I missed her laugh, her smile, and her presence. I missed everything about her. We tried to stay in contact for a few months. We exchanged emails and the occasional phone call, but the distance took its toll. We were both busy with school and trying to build our own lives. Eventually, the communication dwindled, and then stopped altogether. I moved on, or at least I tried to. I dated other people, but no one ever quite measured up to him. I always compared them to him, which wasn't fair. He remained in a special place in my heart. I knew I needed to get over him. I deleted his number from my phone and unfollowed him on social media. I avoided places we used to go together, hoping it would help me forget. It did get easier over time, but I still thought about him sometimes. I wondered if he was thinking about me, too. I told myself it did not matter, but it did, at least a little. I learned to be happy on my own. I focused on my studies and spent time with my friends. I went out, had fun, and met new people. Eventually, I met someone I liked, and we dated for a while. It did not work out, but it helped me realize I could have feelings for someone else. I realized my life did not have to be all about my past relationship. I started thinking about my future and what I wanted to do with my life. Years passed. I graduated from college, got a job, and moved to a new city. I built a good life for myself, but there was always a part of me that wondered what had happened to him. I occasionally thought about looking him up on social media, but I never did. I was afraid of what I might find. One day, I was at a conference for work. I was standing in line for coffee during a break when I heard a familiar voice. I turned around, and there he was. He looked older, more mature, but I recognized him instantly. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't seen him in years. We were close friends in college. I thought about him sometimes. He had moved away after graduation. I knew he was in a similar field. I guess I should not have been that surprised to see him. It was still jarring. I felt awkward. I did not know what to say. I managed a weak smile. I said hello. I asked him how he had been. We made small talk about the conference. We talked about our jobs. We talked about the city. He asked if I was still living in the area. I said that I was. He said he was here for the conference only. It felt good to catch up. He saw me at the same time. His eyes widened in surprise. A slow smile spread across his face. He said my name, and it felt like no time had passed at all. We talked for hours that day, catching up on everything that had happened in our lives. He told me about his job, his travels, and his hobbies. I told him about my career, my friends, and my life in the city. I told him about the last few years and how I had been doing. It was a lot to cover, but I tried to give him the highlights. I spoke about the promotions I received at work and the new responsibilities I had. I mentioned the volunteer work I did at the animal shelter and how rewarding that was. I also talked about how difficult it was to find time for myself, given my busy schedule. I skipped over the parts about my dating life since I did not think those stories were important. It felt good to just talk openly about things I had been dealing with recently. He seemed interested in what I had to say and asked thoughtful questions. I appreciated that he listened so attentively. It made me feel like he cared. After we talked about current events, the conversation drifted toward the past. I brought up some funny stories from when we were younger. We laughed about some of the dumb things we used to do. That led to a more serious discussion about why we had lost touch. We each admitted that we had been too young and immature to handle a real relationship back then. We both acknowledged that the distance had been a major factor too. Neither of us had tried hard enough to stay connected, and we regretted that. I think we both understood why things ended the way they did. It was still nice to hear him say it out loud. I learned that he had moved back to this part of the country a few years ago. He was living just a few hours away from me. He never married or even had a serious relationship. He said he never forgot about me. We spent the rest of the conference together, talking and laughing like we used to. It felt natural, comfortable, and right. The connection was still there, stronger than ever. I tried to ignore the looks I was getting from other people at the conference. I am sure they could see how close we were. It probably looked obvious that something was going on between us. I didn't care. I was happy. It felt good to be around him again. I even forgot about some of the work obligations I had planned for the conference. We just spent the time catching up. We talked about our jobs, our families, and our lives in general. I learned a lot about what he had been doing since we last saw each other. It made me feel like I knew him again. Saying goodbye at the airport was hard. I felt a familiar sadness as we hugged. It was a longer hug than necessary. I wondered if he felt it too. I watched him walk through security. Then I turned and headed to my gate. The whole plane ride home, I replayed our conversations in my head. I wondered if this was a mistake. I also wondered if this could be the start of something good. It was a confusing mix of emotions. I knew I had to figure out what I wanted. At the end of the conference, we exchanged numbers. We promised to stay in touch this time. I was cautiously optimistic. I didn't want to get my hopes up too high, but I couldn't deny the feelings that were resurfacing. We started texting each other every day. We talked on the phone in the evenings. We made plans to see each other again. A week later, he drove to my city to visit. We spent the weekend together, exploring the city and reminiscing about the past. We went to our favorite coffee shop, walked along the river, and watched an old movie. It felt like we were picking up right where we left off. On Sunday night, he took me to dinner at a small Italian restaurant. After dinner, we walked to a nearby park. We sat on a bench under the stars. He took my hand. He told me that he had never stopped thinking about me. He said that he regretted letting me go all those years ago. He told me that he wanted to give us another chance. I told him that I felt the same way. I said that I had always regretted our breakup. I told him that I was ready to try again. We started dating again. It was like no time had passed at all. We were comfortable, honest, and open with each other. We communicated well and supported each other's dreams. We took things slowly this time, but we both knew that this was it. We were meant to be together. After a year of dating, he proposed. We got married last year. It was a small, intimate ceremony with our closest friends and family. It was the happiest day of my life. I am now married to the person I thought I had lost forever. We have built a beautiful life together. We are happy, healthy, and in love. Sometimes, I still can't believe that it happened. I feel incredibly lucky to have found him again. It's a reminder that sometimes, things work out the way they're supposed to. Sometimes, love finds a way. Sometimes, second chances do happen. I often wonder what would have happened if his dad hadn't gotten that job offer. Would we still be together? Would we have eventually grown apart? I will never know the answer to those questions. What I do know is that I am grateful for the journey that led us back to each other. The years apart taught us both valuable lessons. We are stronger, wiser, and more appreciative of what we have. I never would have imagined that I would end up with my college boyfriend. Life has a funny way of surprising you. Sometimes, the person you're meant to be with is the person you least expect. So, to answer the question, yes, I have had a connection with someone, lost them, and then found them again years later. It was the most unexpected and wonderful thing that has ever happened to me, and it makes me believe in the power of fate, and the enduring nature of true love.